B18 fuel pump came in several guises. What we see here is one of the two types that we supply nowadays. Very good value fuel pump. Delivers at a slightly higher fuel pressure than the old ones used to. But yeah, that's what we fit now. Let's just have a look at what was available. This is probably the nicest of the fuel pump series, simply by virtue of the fact that it has a priming lever here that you move up and down to pump fuel by hand into the bowl, and then the engine will start very early on if you haven't been using it for a couple of weeks. Okay, so that's the lovely glass bowl. Rebuild kit, all available for that. But quite rare to find. So that's the priming glass bowl fuel pump. Then came the same pump, but by this time, although the machined bosses are there, the priming lever has disappeared. So same one, and again, fully serviceable. You can rebuild these in their entirety. Then came the rebuildable metal-topped fuel pumps. Again, both of them, the kit is all available for, and you simply pop the top off and replace the diaphragm and various other bits in it as well. And finally, of course, we come to the modern age of what we fit now, which are really fire and forget. If your pump, if one of these pumps goes weak, then we would simply discard it and fit a new one. But there's a particular trick that's well worth covering. So let me just take this one off and describe what you're looking out for. Okay, the two bolts that secure it are 1/2 inch AF bolts. There we go. Out comes one of the bolts. And the other one. And what you'll find is quite possibly you'll have to break the pump off its gasket, that they tend to weld together a little bit. And then, looking at the machined surface here, go in with your safety blade to pare off the old gasket, which won't come off that easily, I promise you, if it's been on there for a few years. Okay, so we've got, for the sake of argument, our old fuel pump off, and then there's a bakelite spacer. This is absolutely critical. If you try fitting the pump with just a single gasket straight on here, you will break the operating lever off. That then drops into the sump, and you're left dead on the road. Okay, so having cleaned up our machine face, our, if necessary, old fuel pump, or got the new fuel pump, we got two new gaskets, and the important bit, that bakelite spacer. Now, the other thing to check once you've cleaned this up is to make sure there is no semblance of a crack. Often it will crack at the one of the two narrow bits, if not both. You may just have to gently flex it to see, because those hairpin cracks are very difficult to spot. Having convinced yourself that your bakelite is intact, then it's just a matter of assembly. So, first gasket on, and there is a right way and a wrong way round of them. Then the bakelite, and the second gasket. And then what I do is I put both bolts through. And then offer up the lower. Now, if the cam here is on the high, then actually it's not going to offer up square to the machine surface. You're going to have to allow it to come up a little bit like that. If in fact the cam here is on the low, then you can probably go straight in, and in fact in this case we can go straight in. But as I say, if not, just allow this to rotate up a little bit, and then once you've got a number of threads on the lower bolt, you can then rotate down and secure the upper bolt. There. Now, I suggest technically 21 Newton meters is the torque for these bolts. However, if you use a small handled ratchet and just nip up with one hand, that is going to be pretty much the correct torque on there. Okay, that's it. So the two critical facts are both to do with the bakelite in the middle. A, make sure it's there, and B, check that it isn't cracked. If it is cracked, we have an endless supply of those at the moment, so so fear not. And that is how to replace the mechanical fuel pump.